Good morning, mathematicians. Today we're thinking about Lesson 8 as we come to the end of our section just focusing on multiplication and fluency with our multiplication standards. We want to just take some time to reflect. In this particular cool down, it asks us to describe something you really understand well from this section on multiplying multi-digit numbers. Or alternatively, you can describe something that was confusing or challenging for you. So you'll notice today in this key, I went ahead and created a little T-chart just with some of the most common answers that I see, right? So in blue, I have a couple things that have been noted as our positives, or I understood wells. So the number one that I have here is I understood how to multiply together the different values in the problem. That is so important. The next is I understood when to use the placeholder 0, which we might call magic 0, but we really know is just math. That is so important as well. The next is I remember my multiplication timetables well, which helped me so much. I love when students see that connection and understand now the big payoff that we have when we aren't so bogged down with figuring out those individual basic facts. And the last one I have is I understood how to use the different strategies like the area model and the standard algorithm. Most of our lessons were about the standard algorithm, but certainly we started with thinking about the area model as well as partial products, and that is definitely a benefit if you're understanding those different strategies. Now over here, it is totally fine if instead of listing something that you understood really well, maybe you're someone who thought more about what you're still confused about, what is still a challenge, and this is a great place for me and you to have a conversation about how we can still help you. Okay, so one thing that I've seen time and time again is being confused, especially by one of the certain strategies. So for example, maybe saying, I get lost in the partial product strategy. Maybe with that strategy, you just get off on which values you're multiplying. That is a common thing that I'm seeing, right? So particularly with partial product strategy, for some of us, that is definitely not a go-to. It might feel a little bit more clunky than the other strategies, while other students simply love it, and that's okay. The second one I've listed is getting off in the alignment and therefore adding incorrect values together. We want in our partial products to add the ones place with the ones place, the tens place with the tens place, and so on. We've got to keep our work nice and neat and aligned to avoid common errors, right? Of simply adding incorrect values together because our work gets a little sloppy or difficult for us to read. The last one is so important, boys and girls. There are so many steps in the problem. They all have to get multiplied together to get your one final answer, and sometimes we can get lost in the process. In our lesson, we added how many individual tiny basic facts we answered to get to one overall correct answer. There was like 17. So again, if you're still having trouble with getting lost in the process of all of those little basic facts that you answer to get to your overall final answer, that is okay. Remember that practice makes perfect, or at least practice makes better. So the more that you practice this, the better it will get for you to not get so bogged down with the what am I doing and what's the next step, and it will get a little bit more seamless. Those are just some examples of some understood wells, some positives, and something's confusing or challenging, some things that we might still be working on to consider as we reflect on Lesson 8.